My family hid a crime for generations, and when I exposed them they tried to silence me. My family had a rule. Some stories never leave the house. I used to think it was just one of those old cultural sayings, the kind meant to keep gossip to a minimum. But when I turned 16 that phrase became a warning. No jokes. No smiles. Just cold eyes and instructions. Don't ask questions about the women. At first I didn't understand what they meant. Women were everywhere in our family. Aunts, cousins, widows who lived in the old guest house. Even a great-aunt who spoke to no one except the family dog. But slowly I realized they didn't mean any women. They meant the ones who disappeared from photos, the ones whose names were carved out of family records, the ones no one would talk about. Those women. The attic I was forbidden to enter. The truth didn't begin with some dramatic moment. It started in dust and silence in my grandfather's attic. He had died 6 months earlier, and everyone said the attic was off-limits until proper arrangements were made. But no one ever made arrangements. They avoided it like it held a ghost. Which, in a way, it did. One Saturday afternoon when everyone was busy preparing for a cousin's engagement party, I slipped upstairs. The attic door creaked loudly enough to wake the dead, but no one came. The room was packed with boxes, some stacked almost to the ceiling. An old dresser leaned against the wall, its drawers locked. And in the center, like a shrine, sat a metal lockbox that looked older than time. The key hung from a nail above it. My first red flag. If this box was so important, why leave the key in plain sight? I opened it. Inside were brittle papers, photographs so faded the faces were ghost-like, and old letters tied together with twine. But at the very bottom, a newspaper clipping that changed everything. The crime my family pretended didn't exist. Local man arrested in disappearance of 3 girls, 1934. My great-grandfather's mugshot stared back at me. Cold eyes. Tight jaw. Like he wasn't sorry, just annoyed he'd been caught. My heart pounded. Because the man in that picture was the same man whose portrait hung over our dining room table. The man my family toasted at holidays. The man they called a pillar of the community. At the bottom of the clipping, handwritten in ink. Paid in full. No more questions. I froze. Paid who? For what? Silence. I dug deeper into the box. There were birth records with mothers' names scratched out. Certificates labeled, cause of death unknown. Photos where the women's faces were inked out like they never existed. And the ledger. A slow, sinking horror crawled into my stomach. Inside were rows of names. All girls. Ages 13 to 17. Dates. Locations. And amounts of money next to each. I felt sick. Was this a list of victims? Bribes? Payoffs? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. This was not a misunderstanding. My great-grandfather had been hiding something monstrous. And my family had been helping him. Confronting my mother. I stormed downstairs with the ledger in hand. My mother was in the kitchen trimming fruit for the engagement party. She took one look at the ledger and went completely still. Not shocked. Not confused. Just tired. Like she'd been holding this secret her entire life. "Where did you find that?" she whispered. "In Grandpa's attic." She closed her eyes like she'd been punched. Then she told me everything. The family packed. In 1934, my great-grandfather was arrested for the disappearance of 3 teenage girls. There was evidence. Witnesses. Even one surviving girl who tried to speak. But my family was powerful. Influential. Feared. And they bought silence. From the victims' families, the sheriff, even the judge. They created a pact. No woman in the family may discuss the incident. No one may investigate the missing women. And the family name must always remain clean. Any woman who questioned the story was punished, silenced, or disappeared. I asked my mother, what happened to the last girl who asked questions? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The research that started everything. I couldn't sleep for days. Every night I read more documents, made copies, scanned pages, researched the names in the ledger. That's when the real horror began. Most of the girls on the list had never been recorded as alive. No birth certificates. No school records. No photos. It was like they were erased. I found one name I could trace. Lillian Hart. A girl who vanished in 1933. 17. Bright. Smiling in the only surviving picture. Her family moved across the country weeks after she vanished. And according to an old note I found in a box, her father accepted payment without argument, calling for help. I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. I contacted the state police. Nothing. They told me it was too old and not my business. So I went higher. I contacted the FBI. Then a cold case nonprofit dedicated to finding missing girls. I sent them everything. The ledger. The clipping. The letters. The erasures. The names. The handwritten notes. I thought they'd take weeks to review it all. They took 2 days. 2 unmarked cars pulled up outside our house early Wednesday morning. The family turns on me. My relatives gathered in the living room like a tribunal. My grandfather's brother, the family patriarch, stared at me with dead eyes. "You betrayed us," he said. "Do you understand what you've done?" I said, "I exposed a criminal." He slammed his cane on the floor. "You exposed us." My aunts accused me of being brainwashed by outsiders. My uncles called me disloyal. One cousin told me I had spat on generations of honor. Then the patriarch said the words that made my blood run cold. "We can make this go away. Or we can make you go away." The escape. I grabbed the ledger, the copies, my backpack, and walked toward the door. My mother followed me outside. Her voice shook when she said, "If you leave now, there's no coming back." I stared at her for a long moment. Then I asked, "Did you ever think about the girls?" She looked away. So I walked. The investigation begins. Over the next months, DNA was tested. The ledger was authenticated. Several of the girls' families were located decades older now, but still mourning. One mother, nearly 100 years old, cried when investigators showed her a scanned page. "I thought everyone forgot her," she whispered. My family's reaction? They hired lawyers. They tried to claim the ledger was fake. They tried to accuse me of mental instability. They made up stories about me being delusional. But the evidence spoke louder. 2 years later, the cases are still open, but 2 sets of human remains found near an old family property were identified as 2 of the missing girls. It wasn't closure, but it was truth. The kind my family tried to bury under money and denial. My entire family cut ties with me. Every cousin. Every aunt. Every uncle. They erased me the way they erased those women. Until 1 month ago. The return. My mother appeared at my apartment door crying. She begged me to come back home. She said the family forgives me. Forgives me. For exposing a predator? Forgives me. For seeking justice for girls they let vanish? No. I told her the same thing I told the investigators. Loyalty should never protect evil. She didn't argue. She just cried. Then she asked, "Are you happy now?" I said, "No. But I'm free." Final note. And for the first time in almost a century, someone in my family finally broke the cycle. Someone finally told the truth. And I refused to ever be silent again.